Everybody, thanks for joining us again on our second episode of Civilization 6 The Gathering Storm. We're running a bit of a tutorial. I'm Will Nicholas and I've got a good understanding of the game, although still learning new things. And
I'm Robin, and I'm a newbie to Civilization 6.
Great. Last time you will note that we were just getting into the first turn and we're now in the second turn. You can see on my map that I've actually moved to a better location because of the, and these are the game's words, not mine, disgusting location of my sitting start. I've moved up onto the hill just here, and I'm going to build my first city. That's now built. And we got to the end of the turn last time, and we talked through the choice of research. I'm just going to quickly choose my research now. I'm going to be choosing to go with pottery so that I can move towards irrigation a little later on. Like we said in the last episode, it's really an aesthetic choice about what's going to be best for you, looking around at the resources and the spaces around you. I'm hoping to take advantage of those spices down to the south, and particularly looking at the wheat resources to the north. I'm also quite interested in developing the space around my new city. So what we might do before we go on to any moves, work through the choose production mode of things. Robin, if you want to open your city.
Yes.
I'm just opening my city now, the city of Rakadet. And inside the city, you can actually see that there is a whole bunch of information. Now, we'll go through this at a later stage, because at this stage, most of that information is not as relevant as things that we can learn earlier in the game. I'm going to choose to build a monument for Rakadet. As I mouse over that, it tells me that building a monument costs me 60 production. It'll provide loyalty to my city, and it will also mean that it will produce extra culture. Culture is awesome because culture provides you with points towards your civic production, which is that purple one up there. We're currently working on Code of Laws. But also culture determines how quickly the borders of your city grow. So you'll notice that I've got a green and yellow line around the outside of my city, and at the moment it's just covering each hex, one hex out from the city. As my culture grows, my city will actually get larger, and I will claim hexes outside. Now that doesn't mean I'm producing from those hexes, it just means that they're now part of my territory and I have control over what gets built there, and I can make use of them. So we want to try and grow that control territory as quickly as possible.
Well, loyalty is obviously important, but there are a lot of other options that can be done in production, namely scouts or warriors or that kind of thing. Is there any better way of, like, why would you choose monument as opposed to like a warrior or a scout or something?
Well, at this stage, if I had begun the game and it sometimes happened and I saw that there were barbarians on the edge of my known area, when I went north I discovered a friendly village, but I could just as easily have discovered a hostile barbarian encampment. Okay. If that were the case, I would probably set about building a second warrior as quickly as possible so that I could fend off those barbarians. But my land's looking pretty peaceful, so I'm not going to worry about that.
All right.
A slinger is also pretty good. It's a ranged attack. It's not very good if it gets up close and personal, but it gets the opportunity to damage units before they get close. And damaged units in Civilization, unless there's a special Civilization rule, do less damage to undamaged units. So when a unit is damaged, it's actually less effective. So hurting them before they can get to you is really helpful. Scouts, I have to say it's a very close tie for me in the opening stages of the game between building a monument or building a scout. Do I want to know more about the fog of war land around me? Do I want to be able to see more of the land? If I do, I'll build a scout. Do I want to consolidate what I own? If I do that, I'll build a monument. So really, when it comes down to it, they're the two things. I'd only build a builder really early in the game if I really wanted to take advantage of a resource that was close up, and it's expensive, and an unprotected builder is always a risk of being carried off by barbarians.
Oh, well, that's something we can explore later on.
When we see some barbarians, I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
So I've built a monument, and I've chosen pottery as my first beginning set.
Okay.
I'm going to cross the river with my warrior, heading towards that village as before, and I'm going to hand over to Robin to talk about his area and decisions.
So last week, I chose animal husbandry as my research. And so that's now, I believe, looking at it, 4 turns to go.
Excellent.
I also chose a production, which you can't see, but taking Will's advice, I also chose monument, and which will take, according to my whatever it is, 5 turns to complete.
Excellent. So what's waiting for you at the moment? Down the bottom, above the arrow, you'll see a little prompt that's telling you what you should be doing next.
So I need to move my warriors as well, and so I now see some lines telling me where I can go. I'm going to continue to move east, and I've come to a river.
Now, last week we covered some of the hex terrain information, and one of them was movement cost. So sometimes it's really useful to know, and that blue line that shows you how far you can move is not necessarily symmetrical because it's affected by movement cost. You'll notice that moving through the hills and the forest around your warrior actually costs 2 instead of the movement cost of 1 moving across open ground or plains.
Yeah.
Also, early on in the game, crossing a river, it takes your full movement. So that rivers are quite large obstacles to get across. Mountains are impassable, so you can't move through a mountain space. You have to go around it.
Okay, that's helpful to know.
You've discovered stone.
Have I?
Yes. If you have a look just in front of your warrior across the river.
Ah, yeah. The
stone resources there.
Although I would imagine my city would take quite a while to reach that stone resource.
In fact, that stone resource is probably outside of the range of your city's expansion, which then begins to suggest to you as you're exploring where your second city might start to be planted.
Aha! Well, that will be some interesting, some conversation around second city later on.
We'll come to that a bit later on.
Mm.
All right. So, do you have anything else that's asking you to do this turn?
Nope. Next turn.
Alrighty. Moving on. The turns move fairly quickly in these early stages because there's not a lot to do other than moving as we're waiting for our builds to be built and our research to be researched and other bits and pieces. So I'm going to move again towards the village, and I have another move, so I'm just going to explore just a little further just to get me a bit of a bigger look around. Next turn I'm going to move into the village, and that will be really exciting. But there's nothing else for me to do, so I'm going to end my turn and we'll move on to what Robin is looking at.
Well, so I can either cross the river or I can go south, and I think at this point I'm going to go south to begin to explore area around my immediate town.
Excellent.
And I can only move 1 space
because you moved into a 2-cost area for those those forests. All right, so we are welcome to turn 3. Wow, we took us all of the first episode just to do turn 1, and now we've already done turn 3. How exciting is this?
Very exciting.
Civilization moves in fits and starts, forward and backwards, and there are times where it's just a matter of doing a couple of things and moving into the next turn. So, the very exciting thing I get to do this turn is move my warrior into the friendly village. So I'm going to do that right now, and there'll be some stuff pop up. Okay, so for moving into that space, I was rewarded with a free reconnaissance unit. So I now have a scout. It has appeared in the city of Rakadet, and you can see that. Can you see that scout there, Robin?
I can. Congratulations.
I'm very pleased with that. That's a bonus unit I did not have to build because I went. And so you can see how there are some significant advantages to trying to find as many of those little villages as possible. As soon as I see one, I try to get to it. So I'm going to move the scout now. The scout has a much higher movement rate than the warrior does. Actually, what I might do is just click on him. So he's got a movement rate of 3, whereas my warrior only has a movement rate of 2. So he can move faster. However, you'll notice that the scout's melee strength is actually only 10, whereas the warrior has a strength of 20. So in a stand-up fight, the scout is going to get beaten by the warrior. So he's a fast-moving, light unit that actually is good for exploring. So I'm going to move him out. Now, here's something very interesting that I have just discovered. My little scout and his puppy dog have just come face to face with a barbarian scout. Can we see that? I'll zoom right in. Look at that.
Wow. Oh, wow.
So zooming right in, and I love the detail here. I've got like a German Shepherd, and I think that might be some kind of Mastiff that the barbarians have got. So the barbarians have done a couple of things. First of all, you'll notice, I don't know if you can see this, Robin, but I can see a flashing exclamation mark above the red barbarian I have discovered. So
Can't see it.
So it probably only shows up for the person it's affecting. But what that means is the barbarian is going, hey, I've found someone I can raid. And so he's now going to turn around, head back to his village and tell them that my village is just here and they're going to send everything they've got to come and attack me. So when you see a scout with an exclamation mark, it's a good idea to try and take him down. So I'm going to be attempting to do that. Cool. New resource discovered to the south, salt luxury. And that's pretty much it from me. Now I've just been alerted that there is, yes, in this turn. Can we go up to have a look at the city of Rajaket now, please? Do you notice anything unusual there, Robin?
Oh, the river looks like it's grown wider.
Yeah, I'm really glad I didn't build my city down on that disgusting floodplain. Because
Wow.
I have to say, things have not started well for my civilization. I've started on a disgusting floodplain. I made the decision to build on the higher ground, and in the third turn of the game, the river near me has flooded. Now,
Wow.
that's potentially good in one sense, in that it didn't destroy my city, and that the floodplain will actually produce more resources into the future. I am going to have to, however, look into building a dam or something down the track to protect my city from this flooding waters. Part of the reason why I noticed that is that on this side here, in my information, it's actually shows a whole bunch of alerts, and I can mouse over those alerts to actually tell me more information and to go to places that they're alerting me to. So that's my turn. Robin, what have you got to talk to us about in your turn?
Okay. Nothing's much happening here. I've still got 2 turns I need to wait for my animal husbandry. And I guess I'm still exploring. I'm really hoping that I find a tribal village, but nothing yet. So I'm going to continue to move southeast. Discovered a mountain down the south, but nothing much more. So that ends my turn.
So there's pros and cons. There are swings and roundabouts here. I have had a flooded plain and met some barbarians, but I've been excited to discover a free scout. So I'm feeling like my highs have been high and my lows have been low, and that's kind of brought me into a sort of a middle ground. What about you, Robin?
I think I'm just riding the way of normality in the game. There's been no extremes for me. My city is growing, which is wonderful. I'm discovering, which is great, but no dramas like barbarians and no villages. So
That's
And
right.
no natural disasters, so that's good.
Sometimes the boring road is the best. It'll be interesting to see, and I'm really pleased that the game has actually done this for us. It's showing us two very different starts and how to manage them with the beginning of the game. Mine has been a disastrous start, but with some great early advantages, whereas Robin's has been a fairly straightforward, easy start for the game. So that's pretty much all we've got time for today. That's our second episode of Civilization Tutorial. We still don't have a good name for it. We'll have a think about that. Don't forget to subscribe and like the channel, and we would love to hear your comments.
And in particular, with your comments, in our very first video, we did go into the very nitty-gritty of all the different tiles and movements and all of that. I'm discovering that there is a real depth of complexity to the game. So perhaps we could invite your viewers to comment on whether they want more of the detail or they want just a quick overview of combat and everything like that.
Absolutely, and you can comment on that down in the comments section below as well, and we would love to hear your comments and interact with you on them. All right, well, that's how it's been today. Thank you for joining us for Civilization 6 The Gathering Storm, and that's goodbye from Will.
And goodbye from Robin. We'll see you next week.